I think one of the hardest parts about growing up with a certain kind of parent who struggles with some type of disorder is not only, of course, that we often internalize that wound and it becomes about our own worthlessness and it's our fault in some way, but the other thing that I see all the time is that we often live our lives believing that if they could just get it, if they could just see their behavior, they would finally understand and they would stop and change it. And of course, that is true in some cases, but in many cases it is not. And so that is really true around gaslighting and criticism and denial, which are very, very common with many wounded parents. And I keep saying it, but I know that these parents are often wounded. And the struggle is, yes, we have compassion for them because they do deserve it. But oftentimes we don't talk enough about the implications for the children. And so, how do you hold compassion for their story and also the deep desire to be validated, which I believe is the root of all of the suffering for so many kids, is the label of being bad or not enough, and then really wanting to be seen and validated. And so when when a parent is gaslighting you or criticizing you or blaming you, it reinforces that loop of really it being your fault and that your experience is not valid. Don't forget that gaslighting is basically a rewriting of the story. It is basically saying that, oh, that didn't happen. And oftentimes not only is the story rewritten to make you feel crazy, but it often is then twisted to make it somehow about you and what you did wrong. And there becomes a blaming, a minimizing, and a criticizing that often attaches to it. And so these are what I think 10 of the most common statements you might hear from certain types of parents who suffer with disorders like borderline or narcissism. And of course, let's not forget, like I say too, that these things they do often do relate to their own difficulties navigating emotions and relationships and memory. And oftentimes you'll find, that you don't have good memory. You're like scratching your head like, wait, did that happen? And they'll often say, no, that didn't happen. The memory on both sides, I often find for the children and the adults, can be fractured in some regards. And so that makes the validation even harder to obtain, especially if the parent is, unable to give you that validation. So the first one is, number one, is that I never did that and I would never do that. Why would you say that? It's a complete disregard for the capacity for them to even do something like that. Even when it's very likely they have done whatever that is, lied or hurt you or said something multiple times. And so that's the first one. The second one is that, oh, you just have a vivid imagination now, don't you? You're always making things up. You think I would do that because you concocted that in your mind, but, I would never do that. And that's just the way you think about things. So yeah, that didn't happen. The next one is often a blaming on you are overly sensitive and it's you've always been a crybaby, you're so sensitive, why don't you grow up? I've heard that one from many, many, many people who have parents like this. Even when their child is like a full adult, right? It's always about there's too much sensitivity on the child's part and no real acknowledgement of the truth and what it might feel like, that it might actually be an insensitive thing to say. The next one is often this idea that you never appreciate me. I see this a lot. They often believe that you have no gratitude for them, that whatever they do, it's never enough and you never appreciate it enough. And so they walk around often looking for places to reinforce that belief. And so at any moment they can tell themselves, well, it's just because, you don't have enough appreciation for me. You don't see what I do for you. But that is often just a wide open range that never gets filled for them, right? They often never feel appreciated. And so it's easy to find the evidence if you're looking for it. The next couple ones are often being told that you are a bad child, a bad person, that type of thing. And then following that is that you are spoiled, selfish, ungrateful, and that really, ties in together. But often these labels about the part of you that make you incapable of even appreciating them because it's something that's defective about you. The next two are that really it's your fault and this is why it's your fault. Let me tell you why it's your fault. And then explaining in some degree how, you made it happen. And the one that really accompanies that is, well, I only did that because you hurt me. I was striking back out at you. And that might be true, but as parents, we are not perfect, and we all have moments where we probably let our guard down and say things we wish we shouldn't. But at the core, you are still responsible for how you respond. Now, as your kids get older, they become more responsible, but as they're still children, at the core, it is really incumbent upon you to take responsibility for hurting somebody and then doing the work to repair it and make it better. And then the last one is often, you know what, I was just joking, like, get over it. You know, it was just a joke. It was sarcasm. I didn't mean it, and you know it. Even though it ribs you in some way, even though there's some root of wound in that regard. And so it's a complete minimization and disregard for whatever was said, even if it was joking. And look, we all say things, you know, we take too far, of course, but in a repetitive way, this becomes very hurtful because there's often some attempt to wound in the joke or the sarcasm. So those, I think, are the most common statements you might hear with a parent who struggles, who has a hard time really acknowledging the reality and the truth, and doesn't tend to twist it and make it about you. And as I keep saying, the root of that validation struggle we have, and that root of being not feeling worthy, if we're never really validated and honored for what we believe happened, then it always comes back to us. And it really truly can, over time, make you feel like, did I remember things the right way? And I think this is also part of the reason why people have a hard time sometimes feeling like, as we're discussing these stories and these disorders, that, well, you know, I feel like we're blaming the person. And I always want to say that that's not the case. I do want to hold compassion for them. But I think this gets in the way because it's so hard to even really truthfully talk about, especially the mother wound, but also the father wound, that we can already start to question, you know, wasn't that bad? Was it really that bad? I mean, she did her best, and that's often true. She or he often did do their best, but that doesn't mean that the wounds don't exist for you. So please feel free to add more down below that you think are more common gaslighting statements by parents, and so we can all just, like, you know, be more clear about what those look like, not only in our child histories, but often in our current lives, so we don't repeat the pain and the struggle. So thanks for watching, guys. Please stay safe and well, and don't forget to subscribe and click the bell if you want to join my little growing community. I'm so grateful and appreciative, and yeah, please take care. I'll see you soon. Bye, guys.